I'm going to make a cave aquarium for a very special fish. And the reason the fish are special is because they are blind. They're actually called blind cave fish and have evolved in dark environments in caves. So I'm going to try and create a tank that replicates their natural environment. To create a cave, we're going to need a lot of rock. So I bought a huge amount of cereal stone, way more than I'd usually use in a tank this size, because I needed to build a structure that created the cave. Now, I didn't want to risk building anything inside the glass, having it tumble down and smash everything, but I also didn't want to glue all the rock together. So I built up a mock design on some cardboard, and given the structure of this rock, it was quite easy to get it to all interlock. And I made sure that every time I put a rock down, I gave it the tap test so that it wasn't all wobbly and was all sort of locked in place. I then placed some foam on the bottom of the glass, which did absolutely nothing at all. I just wanted to protect any sort of pressure points. And this tank was running a long time, so it obviously did something. The reason I did this instead of putting it on sand is that sand can shift and then the whole thing would come tumbling down. So the rock had to be placed on a flat surface. Eventually I came up with what I think is a really cool design, kind of like the rock swooping round with a nice central cave. And I wasn't sure yet if I was going to be planting anything in the substrate, so I emptied out some nutrient capsules in the bottom just to make sure that if there were any plants, their roots would have a food source. I then placed just a clean inert sand on top, capping everything down. It's mainly just for decoration, but I put a thick enough layer to plant later on if I want to. I placed more sand right near the rocks because I knew that's where I'd put plants if I was going to. I mean, as I was doing this, I'm thinking, yeah, it needs something. I topped up the recycled sand that you can see as a base with some brand new stuff. Probably should have washed it first because, yeah, it made the water a little bit cloudy later on, but it doesn't matter. The filter picks up fine dust particles very quickly. I then felt the look was all quite clean, so I added some detail stones around the cereal stone just for a bit more detail. I then decided to add some plants for some detail. I mean, it was pretty inevitable. I'm also conscious that I want the plants to do a bit of work for me. You know, they're going to absorb nutrients, they'll keep down algae. Also, they're just going to look a lot better. I got some fast-growing stem plants, Rotala and Limnophila, for the background area. These grow like weeds, are just going to help improve water quality and they just look great. And then just some tufts of hairgrass sprouting through some of the cracks in the rocks. I felt putting a bit of moss around on the rock structure would look really good as well. Again, I'm sort of turning this into an outdoor cave rather than underground, but I think it looks cool, so yeah, whatever. The first fill up went pretty well, kind of dusted. I mean, I didn't clean all that fresh sand that went on the top, so it's to be expected, but once the filter gets fitted, it'll clean it up very quickly. For filtration, I just went for a very cheap canister filter. They do the job really well. Never had any problems with the cheap ones. Obviously, you don't get the bells and whistles like pre-filter or internal heater, but you get what you pay for. I also added a little interior filter, which just add filter floss in, just to polish the water so it's completely clear. I then added an absolute ton of duckweed. I have absolutely no idea why I did this, because I certainly wouldn't be doing that nowadays, but back then anything green that could grow, I wanted it in the tank. Duckweed's great, don't get me wrong, it serves a purpose, but my goodness, it's very hard to get rid of once you've got it in your tank. And there you have it, the finished look. I think it's a really cool effect. Certainly does give a deep cave impression, even though somewhat not realistic. But what is a fish tank for cave fish without the cave fish? So I went to the aquarium store a few weeks later and got the blind cave fish. Very strange looking fish, but quite interested in how they move. They kind of bump about. And apparently they can sense anything in the water with them, like that's alive, creating electrical impulses, I guess. And that's how they hunt, additional senses. I also got some Otto sinkless as well to help with a cleanup crew. These were absolutely fine with the cave fish to start with because they were quite small, but cave fish actually get to a reasonable size. So eventually I took them out because if a fish can fit in another fish's mouth, it will be eaten. Now what was quite surprising is that when I put the cave fish in, they all went downwards. They can't see, remember, but they knew down was down. And they immediately started exploring their environment, I guess looking for food straight away. I say looking, I mean, they can't look, but you know what I mean. A few weeks later, it was time for our first maintenance session, and I took out as much of the duckweed as I possibly could. I think a few pieces remained and they did come back, but that's all right. I did a 50% water change and everything seemed to be going really well. Didn't get a crazy diatom outbreak, a little bit, but the Ottos kept on top of that, and the plants started to grow really nicely. And then after about a month, you can see here, the plants have grown in absolutely loads, and I switched the light out. I actually put a twin star light on the top, which has a better color spectrum. Really helps with the reds pop and just the overall plant growth because there's more energy being put into the tank. I gave it all a little bit of a trim up, and I think it was looking its best. A few weeks later again, and I'd finished building a shed in my garden, and I'd placed it in there, and against the black background, it popped amazingly well. Another quick trim up session, and everything was just looking perfect. Now, I actually had the cave fish for a long time, and they got about 3 times the size that you're seeing in this video. So yeah, they do get big, but they are very interesting fish. And it was so nice seeing them enjoy the environment that I created for them.